Hey, it's Justin here at This Just In. How are you doing? Well, I'm here to bring you my review on the next book in the Read Every Book by Stephen King challenge. I, of course, have recently read Firestarter. I think this is the third Stephen King book in a row that I've read, so I think I'm going to take a break from those. And it's taken me a while to get through them, but I've got them. I've got this down. So this is released in 1980, published in 1980. And it tells the story of Andy and Charlie McGee. They are on the run from a shadowy government organization called the Shop. And the Shop is responsible for the powers that Andy has and the powers that he was given during an experiment in his college years when he was low on cash. And so he went into an experiment with several other students, and they injected him with some drugs and something called Lot 6, I believe. And this ends up giving him these psychic or telepathic abilities where he is able to control people with his mind to a certain extent. He can give them suggestions, or what he calls his push, so that he can get them to either believe something or to do things for him. Unfortunately, this push comes along with its own negative physical side effects. They give him headaches, and if you push as hard enough, the headaches can be quite debilitating, which is causing a problem as Andy and his daughter are on the run from this shop. And his daughter, of course, is the subject of the main subject of the book, Firestarter. She is the Firestarter of the title, and she has the pyrokinetic ability to set things on fire with her mind. But she's very young, and it's difficult for her to control, and it has caused some problems in her family in the past. In particular, she injured her mother at one point. I think her mother's name was Vicky. She was also a subject of the experiment, and that is where Andy and Vicky met, was during the experiment. But the Shop has caught up to them. They are aware of Charlie, and they want to get their hands on Charlie for whatever nefarious reasons. And in the process, they killed Vicky, and now Andy and Charlie are on the run from the Shop. And this is where we start the book. Actually, the book launches right into the chase. The first half of the book is mainly a chase, and then we flip between that and some flashbacks where we find out about Andy's past and the experiment and his developing a relationship with Vicky. And so let's see. I'm not going to get too much more into it, I guess. It's did I like it? Let's see. It was fine. It's the weakest of the King books that I've read up to this point during this challenge. I've read it before, of course, and that's part of why I'm going through this challenge, is to kind of re-experience these books that I read in my youth and to see how I respond to them now. It didn't leave much of an impression on me then, and I don't think it's going to leave much more of an impression on me now. It's not my favorite Stephen King book. It's not that it's bad, it just isn't that compelling, you know. There's a point during the middle of the book where it just kind of comes to a halt in the style and tone of the book. Not the tone, I guess, but it changes. And I think Mike, my friend Mike, talked about this in his video as well. And he's right that it just comes to a screeching halt around the middle portion. So it didn't jar, reading this now didn't jar a lot of memories for me. There was one aspect of the book. There's a character who ends up killing themselves in a pretty gruesome fashion, and I won't describe it, but it was something that stuck out to me, but I didn't remember what book it came from. And when I came across it, oh, that's that book where that person ends up doing that horrible thing to themselves. And so that was interesting. There's an aspect of that, well, you know, I don't want to jump into every King book that I read and talk about the problematic aspects of it, but these are things that I'm noticing now that I didn't notice then. You know, of course, these books are going to be a reflection of their time, and you know, for example, there's a Native American character who is the kind of the main bad guy, one of the main bad guys, and he's chasing Charlie and Andy, and he is referred to as an Indian. Of course, this is 1980. I will say with that character, I didn't feel like it was wholly stereotyped. I felt like it was a decent character overall, and I didn't feel like King leaned too heavily into Native American stereotypes. Of course, I'm not the best judge of that, me being just your average middle-aged white guy. So, but from what I could see, it could have been a lot worse than it was. So I'll give King that. And of course, King will always take an opportunity to introduce a fat character and make fun of the fat character. All of these characters are often going to have some sort of junk food in their hand while we're meeting them. And in this case, the fat guy is eating a Twinkie, and he drops the Twinkie and later picks it up and begins eating it because, you know, fat people will always eat a Twinkie no matter what, I guess. That gets pretty tiresome. There's also the question of Andy's wife, Vicky. She is essentially fridged in the novel, which I don't think is spoiling too much to say that. I think we know pretty early on that she dies. And she, of course, is not much of a character, could have been more of a character to begin with. And the term fridging, if you're not familiar with that, it is this idea where there's a character that is killed off in order to motivate the main character. This character that's killed off is usually female, and the main character is usually male. The term, I believe, came from a Green Lantern comic book in which one of the character, their partner was found dead in a fridge. And that's more or less what happens here. Vicky is left not in a fridge, but in another sort of, I think an ironing closet of some sort for him to find. And she, of course, is badly mutilated. So it is, of course, the tragedy and the shock of finding his wife's body that is part of his motivation. And of course, he's being chased by the dangerous, shadowy government as well. But the so-called fridging of a character not only is it weak writing, where you're introducing a cardboard character just to kill them off, to motivate the main character, and it tends to be a sexist trope as well, as it typically involves a female partner, a wife or a girlfriend that is killed off in a tragic way to motivate the main character. So these are aspects of the book that didn't really stand out to me at all when I first read the book, when I was 12 or 13, when I first started my Stephen King kick. But they stood out quite a bit to me now. I like to think that I'm a wiser reader now that I'm older, and here we are talking about these things. Overall, the quality of the book, I think I said, was fine. It just wasn't that compelling to me. There's a big dead spot in the middle that I actually put the book down for a while. It wasn't motivated to get back to it. But I had a duty to read this book to finish out my Stephen King challenge, and so I finished the book. It was fun. It's a fun read. The characters aren't as well developed overall as some of King's characters in previous works. I'd say he's got some far better characters in The Stand, and certainly The Shining or Carrie, far better characters. The Dead Zone, even. Lots of characters a lot better than these. Not that they're terrible. And it does have an explosive ending, as you would expect with a book about a girl who starts fires with her mind. So overall, it's not the first book I would recommend to anybody who's interested in reading Stephen King. It's fine. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm just kind of rambling now. So that's it. Stephen King's Firestarter. This was actually nominated for a couple of awards here. I need to take a quick look at what they were. They were nominated for a couple of awards, which is a little surprising to me. For the British Fantasy Award, for the Locus Poll Award, and the Balrog Award. I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't much to choose from then, or maybe it just seemed better then than it does now. Some time has passed. So thanks for talking about this book with me. Firestarter, published in 1980 by Stephen King. But was he deep into his alcohol and cocaine phase at this point? That might explain for kind of the lackluster attempt at this book. I'm gonna try not to talk myself into really disliking this book more than I do. It was a fine read. A fine read, Justin says, I guess, whatever that might mean to you. So Stephen King's Firestarter. I think the next Stephen King book I have to read is Dance Macabre, a nonfiction book about the horror subject, which sounds great to me. I'm not going to read that quite yet, though. Got a couple of other things. I read another book, actually a very small book, which I'll talk about maybe in another video. Maybe I'll reserve that for a short, just to get it put out there. Anyway, thank you for attending my review of Firestarter, and I hope to see you again soon. I'll see you in June on the range at the latest. That's going to be fun. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.